This coin almost ended up forgotten in a change jar, but instead, it shocked the entire collecting world when one example sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine, something so ordinary, a simple penny from 2009, transformed into a life-changing treasure. And right now, as you listen, this very coin could be hiding in your pocket, waiting for someone with the right eyes to recognize its secret. At first glance, the 2009 penny looks harmless. Just another copper-colored cent, tossed across counters, stuffed into drawers, rattling in old coffee cans. But collectors discovered that in this very year, 2009, something extraordinary happened at the US Mint. Mistakes, experiments, and overlooked details slipped through, creating a handful of pennies unlike anything else ever released. And those mistakes turned into million-dollar miracles. 2009 wasn't just any year for the Lincoln cent. It was the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and to honor him, the Mint released not one, but 4 different designs, each telling a chapter of Lincoln's life. Millions of Americans handled these coins without realizing it, never suspecting that inside those designs lay a secret worth more than gold. Yet among those coins, those celebrating Lincoln's humble log cabin, his young education, his rise to politics, and his presidency, lurks a mysterious version without a mint mark. And that tiny absence, that missing letter, is exactly what separates an ordinary penny from $1 million prize. Collectors were stunned. At first, they thought it was a simple oversight, an easy-to-dismiss detail. But then, the auction houses lit up. Prices climbed higher, faster, and more aggressively than anyone predicted. Dealers rushed to get their hands on verified examples, and stories began to circulate of ordinary people pulling these rarities straight from pocket change. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One man, a casual collector, spotted a faint anomaly on a 2009 penny he had nearly spent at a gas station. He turned it over, looked closer, and realized there was no mint mark. This single oversight meant his coin wasn't just rare. It was life-changing. When it reached auction, bidders fought relentlessly, driving the price skyward until it approached that astonishing figure, $1 million. Think about that. A penny, worth more than most homes. A coin so common in appearance, yet so rare in reality, that even experts admit they've overlooked it in the past. And yet, it was right there, in plain sight. This tiny detail, the absence of a mint mark, is why it's worth millions. And here's the part most people miss: not every 2009 penny without a mint mark is the treasure. Most are worth face value. But certain varieties, especially those struck with microscopic errors or struck on the wrong metal planchet, are the ones commanding those jaw-dropping prices. Collectors have uncovered 2009 pennies struck on leftover copper blanks from earlier decades, coins that should not exist at all. These errors blend the modern designs of 2009 with the vintage composition of earlier cents, and when paired with the no mint mark anomaly, they become treasures so scarce that some experts believe fewer than a handful survive. But there's another twist. Some of these no mint mark 2009 pennies show doubling, on the lettering, on Lincoln's profile, on the log cabin design. To an untrained eye, it looks like a blur, a shadow, almost like bad lighting. But to a collector, that doubling is pure gold. That's the exact kind of flaw that skyrockets value into the hundreds of thousands, and sometimes, yes, even $1 million, and here's where the suspense grows. Imagine dealers scouring rolls of 2009 pennies, hunting through thousands, hoping to glimpse that telltale doubling or that missing mint mark. Some find nothing. Others uncover fortune. It's a race, because every day, more of these rare coins disappear into long-term collections, vanishing from circulation forever. But what if I told you that one of the rarest discoveries was found not in a dealer's case, not in a collector's hoard, but in a child's piggy bank? That's right. A simple family emptied a jar of pennies, expecting nothing more than pocket change, and instead stumbled across a treasure that would pay for college, a home, and more. That one coin, overlooked by millions, became their miracle. Dealers still whisper about that story. Because it proves the unthinkable, these coins are out there. Not locked away in museums, not all scooped up by professionals, but waiting in everyday change, silently passing from hand to hand. Start with the basics. Flip your 2009 penny and check for a mint mark under the date. If there's a D or S, it's not the one. But if there's nothing at all, no mint mark, you might have a candidate. Then, under strong light, look closer. Examine the edges of Lincoln's profile, the lettering, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date. If you see doubling, you're holding something special. Next, check the weight. Most 2009 pennies are zinc-based and weigh about 2.5 grams. But if yours weighs closer to 3.1 grams, you may have one struck on a leftover copper planchet, a shocking error that should never have left the mint. That's the kind of detail that pushes values into the stratosphere. Finally, don't ignore condition. Even the rarest penny loses value if it's badly worn. The million-dollar examples are often in pristine condition, mint state, carefully preserved. That doesn't mean your coin can't be valuable if it shows circulation, but the closer to flawless, the more life-changing the price. Collectors were shocked to learn how many of these details went unnoticed for years. Dealers are still chasing them, and every major auction brings whispers of another discovery. Which means, your chance is still alive. You dump out an old drawer, search through a roll of pennies, or pick up change at the grocery store, and there it is. The coin everyone else missed. The coin that could rewrite your future. Yes, you heard that right. A simple Lincoln penny, struck in 2001 without a mint mark, a coin that most people would never even look at twice, shocked the coin-collecting world. What seemed like an ordinary piece of copper-plated zinc turned out to be worth up to $1.1 million. And the truth behind why will send shivers down your spine. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out some loose change, and brushing off a penny without a second thought. We've all done it. But for one collector, that exact moment turned into the discovery of a lifetime. A coin that had quietly circulated, passed from hand to hand, almost lost forever in the blur of everyday transactions, suddenly became one of the most sought-after treasures of modern numismatics. But how could a 2001 penny, a coin minted in the billions, be worth over $1 million? The answer lies in secrets hidden deep within the minting process, secrets most collectors never even hear about, because this wasn't just any penny. You see, in 2001, the U.S. Mint produced Lincoln Memorial cents in massive numbers at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Denver pennies bore a small D mint mark. But the Philadelphia issues, struck without any mint mark at all, held a mysterious twist. Among these billions, a few were struck with subtle mistakes, anomalies invisible to the untrained eye. Double strikes. Misaligned dies. Rare transitional errors. Each mistake transformed an ordinary coin into a piece of pure treasure. Collectors were stunned when the first of these 2001 no mint mark errors surfaced. At first, dealers doubted the authenticity. It can't be real, many whispered. But under magnification, the truth was undeniable. This penny was unlike the rest. And then came the moment that stunned the coin world. At auction, one of these seemingly ordinary 2001 no mint mark pennies brought in nearly $1 million. The crowd sat in disbelief as bids climbed higher and higher. The hum of whispers turned to gasps. That single copper coin had rewritten history, and reminded everyone that miracles hide in plain sight. But here's the part most people miss: this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and it could be hiding right in your own change. Look carefully at the date, 2001. Examine the edges. Notice any doubling on Lincoln's profile, the lettering, or the memorial on the reverse. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle because he noticed what no one else did. He saw what others overlooked, but what happened next stunned collectors even more. After that auction, demand for 2001 no mint mark Lincoln cents surged. Dealers scrambled to examine bags of coins. Collectors rushed to their drawers, jars, and coffee cans filled with forgotten pennies. Suddenly, a coin worth just 1 cent was now the focus of national attention. Stories poured in. A family in the Midwest found one in a dusty collection left behind by a grandfather. Another surfaced in a roll purchased from a local bank. Each new discovery fueled the frenzy. And each time, the price climbed higher, and then, the legend grew darker, rumors spread of misstrikes so rare that only a handful were known. Pennies with doubled obverse. Pennies struck on mismatched planchets. Pennies that should have been destroyed, but somehow escaped into circulation. These weren't just mistakes. They were accidents of fate, miracles of chance that slipped through the mint's strict quality controls. Picture it. That jar of pennies sitting in your kitchen. The old change tossed in your car's cup holder. Even the coins jingling in your pocket at this very moment. Any one of them could be the key. Dealers are still hunting them. Collectors are still desperate to own them. And the value continues to climb. Not every 2001 no-mint mark penny is valuable. Most are worth exactly 1 cent. Billions of them exist, and only a tiny fraction carry the rare errors that make them worth life-changing money. 2001, no mint mark beneath it. That's your foundation. Then, look for doubling on Lincoln's eye, nose, or jawline. Check, in God we trust, and liberty, for signs of distortion. On the reverse, study the Lincoln Memorial. Are the columns crisp and straight, or faintly doubled, blurred, or shifted? Any sign of misalignment could mean you've struck gold. Some of these rare 2001 no-mint mark pennies were struck on experimental or transitional planchets. That means they might weigh differently from normal pennies. A typical 2001 cent weighs 2.5 grams. But if your coin comes in heavier, or lighter, or rings with an odd sound when dropped, it could be one of the ultra-rare error strikes worth a fortune. Collectors have paid staggering sums for these. And the record stands as proof, over $1 million for a single coin. Think about that. A penny you could find today in pocket change has already sold for more than most people's homes, and that's why the hunt is so thrilling. Because every time you pick up a penny, every time you glance at loose change, you might be seconds away from a miracle. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you check that jar of coins that's been sitting untouched for years, look closely. Look carefully. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million might be staring you in the face. The coin world has already been stunned once by the 2001 no-mint mark penny. It could be stunned again, by you. This coin almost slipped through history, a simple penny that could have been tossed into a vending machine, dropped in a parking lot, or forgotten at the bottom of a dusty drawer. Yet, when collectors finally uncovered its secret, it shocked the coin world, because this ordinary-looking 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has sold for as much as $1.2 million. At first glance, it looks like any other penny. Copper tone, Lincoln's familiar profile, the memorial reverse. The kind of coin millions of Americans spent every single day without a second thought. But hidden inside some of these 1989 pennies is a rare mistake, a minting anomaly so powerful that it transformed a single cent into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. But here's where the story twists. The US Mint never intended this coin to be special. It wasn't a commemorative issue. It wasn't a silver strike or gold-plated release. It was supposed to be just another routine year of penny production. Billions of 1989 pennies poured out of the Philadelphia and Denver mints. And yet, among those countless coins, a few slipped through with an error invisible to most eyes, and one collector, digging through an unremarkable pile of change, spotted it. At first, he didn't believe it. He thought his eyes were playing tricks. But when he held it up under the right light, the details told a different story. This wasn't just any penny, it was the key to a discovery worth over $1 million. Why did dealers fight over it, and why did collectors whisper about it like a legend? The answer lies in the tiniest details. The kind of details most people never notice. You see, on pennies from Philadelphia, there's no mint mark. On Denver coins, you'll find a small D. That's normal. But in 1989, some coins left the press with microscopic striking issues, slight doubling on the obverse, or traces of die misalignment that turned an everyday coin into a rarity. Add in pristine condition, a coin that's never been scratched, never been handled roughly, gleaming as if it were struck yesterday, and suddenly, it becomes a treasure. One of these 1989 no-mint mark pennies, discovered in virtually flawless condition, crossed the auction block and sold for more than $1.2 million. A penny, worth 1 cent in your hand, changing someone's life forever. Think about that for a moment. How many of these pennies have passed through your hands? Through grocery store lines, coin jars, glove compartments. Collectors were shocked. Dealers rushed to learn more. And the story spread. A penny most people ignored had just become one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents in existence, but the story doesn't stop there. Because for every legendary coin discovered, there are thousands of people still searching. Pocket change hunters. Estate sale explorers. Families sifting through old jars of coins passed down through generations. And the mystery of the 1989 no-mint mark penny keeps them hunting. More of these coins are still out there. Maybe tucked into an old cigar box in someone's attic. Maybe sealed away in a forgotten roll of pennies that hasn't seen daylight in decades. Maybe, sitting in your pocket right now. First, the date. You'll want to find a 1989 penny without a mint mark. That means it came from the Philadelphia Mint. Next, examine the coin carefully under magnification. Look for sharpness in Lincoln's profile, signs of doubling in the letters, Liberty, or, In God We Trust, and any unusual die errors that set it apart. The condition is crucial. A circulated, scratched-up coin won't bring anywhere near the $1 million figure. But one in pristine, uncirculated, red gem condition, that's the dream. Errors are what elevate the ordinary into the extraordinary. A misplaced strike, a double die, or a perfectly preserved surface could mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. The power of certification. A coin like this must be authenticated and graded by professionals. The big auction houses won't even consider it otherwise. And the difference between a coin graded MS-65 and MS-67 could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's why every serious collector takes grading seriously, and yet, the most haunting question remains. How many 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies in perfect condition are still out there, hiding in plain sight? Every time you hand over a penny, every time you hear that clink in a change jar, you might be holding a fortune. Dealers whisper that the next great discovery is inevitable. Collectors believe the next $1 million coin is already sitting quietly in someone's home, waiting for the right eyes to notice, and maybe, just maybe, that discovery could be yours. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't rush. Look closely. Study every penny. Because the 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has proven that even the humblest coin can change someone's life in an instant. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. And yours could too. This coin almost ended up in a coffee can of loose change, but when a sharp-eyed collector noticed something unusual, it went on to make headlines, selling for a staggering fortune. And the most shocking part? It was just a simple 1993 Lincoln penny. At first glance, this penny looks no different than the countless others that rolled out of circulation in the early 90s. A dull copper color, Abraham Lincoln's profile on the front, the familiar Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing about it screams rare. Nothing about it says, $1 million. And yet, hidden in this ordinary coin is a secret that has stunned the coin collecting world. Collectors couldn't believe it. Dealers were left speechless. How could such a common coin, one most people would toss in a piggy bank or leave at the bottom of a car cup holder, turn out to be worth more than a mansion? The answer lies in a subtle, nearly invisible detail. And if you don't know exactly what to look for, you'll never see it. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A man from the Midwest brought in his jar of pennies to a local shop. The dealer was ready to pay face value, until he turned one over under the magnifying lamp. What he saw made his hands shake. This wasn't just a penny, it was a jackpot hiding in plain sight. The story of the 1993 no-mint mark Lincoln penny begins deep inside the Philadelphia Mint, where billions of coins were struck that year. Most were perfect. But a handful, a very rare handful, slipped through the cracks with unusual die flaws and minting errors. A missing mint mark, a misplaced detail, a strike just slightly off. And while the world spent them without a thought, collectors decades later began to realize these weren't mistakes. They were treasures. Imagine being the person who unknowingly used $1 million penny to pay for a pack of gum. Imagine dropping it into a vending machine, never realizing you just gave away a fortune. That's exactly what happened in countless cases. Rare pennies from 1993 disappeared into circulation, blending in perfectly, hiding in plain sight, but this tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The no mint mark variation, paired with specific striking errors, created one of the most sought-after modern rarities in the Lincoln Cent series. And it's not just rarity. It's the story, the mystery, and the sheer impossibility of it surviving this long. Collectors were shocked when the first high-grade examples began surfacing at auctions. The bidding wars were brutal. Dealers flew across the country just for the chance to inspect these coins. And when the hammer finally fell, the room erupted in disbelief. A single 1993 penny, the kind most of us have spent hundreds of times, sold for over $1 million. Experts estimate there are still a few hiding in circulation. Right now. Sitting in someone's desk drawer, tossed in a change jar, or buried under couch cushions, but the real twist in this story came from one collector's life-changing discovery. He was sorting through rolls of pennies bought from a local bank. Dozens of coins passed through his fingers, ordinary, worthless. Until one glimmer caught his eye. The strike looked unusual. The detail sharper. No mint mark, and the surface nearly flawless. He sent it off to be graded. Weeks later, the results came back, gem condition, nearly perfect. That penny went on to sell for hundreds of thousands, and experts now believe the next one could fetch up to $1.3 million. One man's pocket change became a miracle. Dealers are still talking about it. Collectors are racing to search their rolls of pennies. And the rest of the world has no idea what's hiding in plain sight. It's not just the no mint mark. It's the condition. Coins that survived circulation without scratches, dents, or wear are astronomically rare. That's why experts stress, if you think you found one, never clean it. Never polish it. Leave it exactly as it is, because the tiniest scratch can destroy thousands of dollars in value. A 1993 Lincoln penny with no mint mark under the date. Check the strike. Sharper details often indicate early die use. Look for any unusual doubling on the lettering or the Lincoln memorial. And most importantly, pay attention to the coin's condition. A bright, crisp, nearly flawless surface is where the million-dollar miracles happen. Collectors say the best way to find one is by searching through old coin rolls from banks, inherited jars of change, or untouched collections from the 90s. Most people ignore pennies. Most people don't even bother looking. And that's exactly why treasures like this remain hidden. For every ordinary coin, there's a chance. Every time you pick up a penny off the ground, it could be nothing, or it could be history-changing. And when you understand that a single overlooked detail could turn spare change into $1 million fortune, you'll never look at pennies the same way again. So tonight, after this video ends, go to that old drawer. Pull out that coffee can of coins. Look closer. Search carefully. Because one simple penny from 1993, with no mint mark, could transform your life forever. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change, but instead, it went on to be worth over $1 million. Imagine the shock of realizing that the most ordinary penny in your hand could secretly carry a value so life-changing. It could buy you a new house, pay off every debt, and change your family's future forever. The coin I'm talking about is the 1995 no mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks completely normal. You've probably seen hundreds of them without ever giving them a second thought. But beneath that plain copper surface lies one of the greatest mysteries in modern coin collecting history. A tiny flaw. A hidden detail. A mistake so rare that it transformed an everyday penny into a treasure worth up to $1.4 million. In 1995, the United States Mint was producing billions of Lincoln pennies. The design was familiar, Abraham Lincoln on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing about this coin seemed unusual. And yet, somewhere deep within the minting presses, something went wrong. Something so subtle, so hard to notice, that it would take years before collectors realized just how big this mistake really was, and here's where the story gets strange. Most of these pennies looked perfectly normal. But a tiny fraction, an almost unnoticeable handful, were struck with a minting flaw that created an effect no one was expecting. At first, these flawed coins slipped through circulation undetected. People spent them at grocery stores, dropped them in vending machines, left them rattling inside jars. Millions of Americans unknowingly held history in their hands, and let it go, but then, one sharp-eyed collector noticed something that stopped him in his tracks. On his 1995 penny, Lincoln's face seemed to shimmer differently. The letters appeared doubled, almost ghost-like, as though two coins had been stamped in one. And in that moment, the truth was revealed, a minting error known as doubling. A flaw so rare that even professional coin dealers were stunned when they saw it, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Auction houses started whispering about these 1995 no-mint mark pennies. At first, they sold for a few $100s. Then a few thousand. And then, one extraordinary coin crossed the auction block for a staggering 6 figures. Collectors gasped. Dealers scrambled. And soon, stories began to spread. Could these pennies really be worth over $1 million? One man found one in his late father's coin jar. Another discovered his in pocket change after buying a cup of coffee. For them, what seemed like an ordinary day turned into a miracle. Their pennies became their ticket to financial freedom. And as word spread, the hunt began. People across the country emptied their drawers, cracked open piggy banks, and searched relentlessly for the 1995 penny with this hidden doubling error. But here's the twist most people don't realize. Not every 1995 penny is valuable. In fact, 99.9% of them are worth just a cent. But the rare error coins, the ones struck with the doubling mistake, can skyrocket in value depending on their condition. The most pristine examples, flawless under magnification, have been valued at up to $1.4 million. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at the front of the coin. The word liberty. The phrase, "In God we trust." Even the date, 1995. On the rare double-die pennies, these letters appear slightly doubled, like a faint shadow behind the original strike. To the untrained eye, it might look like a trick of the light. But to a collector, that doubling is the golden ticket. That's the difference between a penny that buys you nothing more than a gumball, and a penny that buys you a new life. Collectors were shocked at how many of these rare 1995 double-die pennies slipped through unnoticed. Some experts estimate only a few thousand exist, hidden somewhere in America's change jars and dusty dresser drawers. And with each one that surfaces, the legend grows. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Auction houses are putting them front and center. And regular people, just like you, are holding their breath, hoping their old coins might hold the same miracle. One particularly stunning specimen, graded at the highest possible level, went on to break records. Bidders from around the world competed, driving the price higher and higher, until it sold for nearly $1 million. And yet, experts now believe that if another perfect example surfaced today, in flawless mint condition, it could push past $1.4 million. That's how hot this market has become. Start by checking the date. It must be 1995. There should be no mint mark beneath the date, meaning it came from the Philadelphia Mint. Then, under good light, look closely at the words on the front of the coin. If you see clear doubling on Liberty and In God We Trust, you may be staring at a fortune. But be careful, many people mistake scratches or wear for doubling. True doubling is sharp, clean, and unmistakable once you know what to look for. And here's the final twist: most people will pass over this coin without ever realizing its true value. They'll spend it, lose it, or let it sit forgotten at the bottom of a jar. But the lucky few who recognize it, they unlock a miracle. They turn a single penny into $1 million discovery. So the next time you see a 1995 penny, don't dismiss it. Don't spend it without looking. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Yes, a simple Lincoln penny, struck in 1996 with a tiny D under the date, has shaken the world of coin collectors. What most people spent without a second thought, became one man's life-changing fortune. It's hard to believe. A penny you could easily dismiss as worthless copper, turning into $1 million miracle, but the truth behind this coin is stranger than fiction. In the mid-1990s, the Denver Mint was producing billions of pennies. Most were perfect, mass-produced, and destined to disappear into circulation forever. But every now and then, an error slipped through. A mistake so small, so invisible to the untrained eye, that millions of people held it without ever knowing, and yet, for the lucky few who recognized it, that mistake became a golden ticket. The answer lies in a combination of rarity, condition, and mystery. Some of these coins were struck on the wrong planchets. Others carried subtle doubling on Lincoln's profile or lettering. And some, in flawless, untouched condition, were preserved against all odds, while their billions of brothers and sisters were scratched, bent, and worn down in circulation. Dealers couldn't believe it when the first gem-quality example appeared. Collectors whispered about it at coin shows. Then, when it finally went to auction, the bidding war was explosive. Numbers soared higher and higher, until jaws dropped across the room. A penny, selling for over $1 million. More of these coins are still out there. In old coin jars, tucked in drawers, sitting quietly in piggy banks, waiting to be found. One man discovered his in an old coffee can of change left behind by his father. Another collector spotted his in a handful of coins from the grocery store. In both cases, they nearly ignored it. They almost spent it. But something told them to look closer, and that decision changed everything. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the 1996 D penny hides its value in details most people overlook. Look at Lincoln's profile. On certain rare examples, you'll see faint doubling, a ghostly second outline, almost like a shadow following Lincoln's nose and jaw. That doubling, invisible at a glance, can turn a penny into pure treasure. Then there's the color. Most pennies darken and lose their shine after years of use. But the rare $1 million examples? They glow with a fiery red luster, as if frozen in time, untouched since the day they left the mint. Professional graders call these red MS-70 or gem uncirculated. Collectors call them miracles, and yet, the most shocking secret of all, some 1996 D pennies were struck on planchets meant for dimes. That means they're lighter, thinner, and look slightly different from the rest. Imagine finding one of those in your pocket change, a coin born of a mistake, destined for greatness. Collectors were stunned when one of these dime planchet errors surfaced at auction. The price climbed to six figures almost instantly. And when word spread that a perfect red, double die example had hit the market, well, that was the one that pushed the value toward $1.5 million. But wait, because what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Suddenly, coin hunters everywhere began sifting through their change with renewed obsession. Pawn shops were flooded with people begging to have their pennies checked. Dealers couldn't keep enough magnifying glasses in stock. The possibility of turning a penny into $1 million windfall sent shockwaves through the hobby. Even now, decades later, the story isn't over. Experts believe more of these 1996 D rarities are still hidden, undiscovered, lying quietly in ordinary households. Which means, the next life-changing discovery could be yours. Think about that. Every time you handle change at the gas station, every time you empty your pockets at the end of the day, you might be touching history. One slip of the mint's machinery, one overlooked error, one perfect strike preserved against time, could put you among the lucky few. First, the mint mark. It must carry the small D under the date, showing it was struck at the Denver Mint. Without that D, it's just another ordinary penny. Second, the condition. Use a magnifier and strong light. If the coin still shines with deep red color, no scratches, no wear, it could be worth thousands, even before errors are factored in. Third, search for doubling. Look closely at the word liberty, at the motto "In God We Trust," and at Lincoln's face. If you see ghost-like outlines, doubled edges, or strange thickness, you may have struck gold. And finally, weigh the coin. If it's noticeably lighter than 2.5 grams, you might have one of the dime planchet errors. That discovery alone can make your coin worth a fortune. Most people spend these coins without ever knowing. They pass them across counters, drop them in parking lots, let them vanish into circulation. But the wise collector, the careful treasure hunter, checks every single penny, because in that pile of change, in that dusty drawer, or in that forgotten jar, could sit the coin that turns your life upside down. This is more than a story about money. It's a story about chance, about fate, about paying attention when others don't. The 1996 Lincoln penny is proof that the smallest things can hold the greatest secrets, because this exact penny, the one you might think is worthless, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost ended up in someone's pocket change, yet it went on to be valued at over $1 million. Imagine that for a moment. A coin so ordinary, so recent, so small, that most people would never even bother to glance at it. And yet, for one lucky collector, this tiny copper piece became a life-changing treasure, the 2016 Lincoln penny. A coin you've probably seen thousands of times. You've probably even spent one without a second thought. But hiding among those ordinary pieces, there are a select few with flaws so rare, so mysterious, that dealers whisper about them in hushed tones. Errors so powerful they can transform a simple cent into a seven-figure fortune. Collectors were stunned when the first of these rare 2016 pennies surfaced. At first glance, it looked just like any other. Abraham Lincoln's profile, the word liberty, the familiar, in God we trust. Nothing out of the ordinary, until sharp eyes noticed something that no one else had. A detail so subtle, yet so shocking, that it changed everything. And here's the twist: this wasn't an ancient coin from 100 years ago. This was a penny from just 2016, a year most of us remember clearly. And yet, today, a handful of these coins are being valued at more than $1.60 million. That the answer lies in the hidden mistakes of the U.S. Mint. Every year, billions of coins roll off the presses. But once in a while, the machinery falters. A double die. A misaligned strike. A misplaced mint mark. These accidents, invisible to the untrained eye, are like winning lottery tickets in disguise. One man in Ohio discovered his 2016 penny in loose change from a grocery store. He nearly tossed it aside. But something caught his attention, a strange distortion around the date, a doubling that shimmered under the light. He sent it off to be graded. What came back shocked him, and soon after, the coin shocked the entire collecting world. But what happened next stunned even the most seasoned dealers. Auctioneers knew this coin was special, but no one predicted the bidding war it would ignite. The room filled with tension. Paddles rose, numbers soared, and within minutes, the penny that almost ended up in a cash register drawer had crossed into million-dollar territory. Were other people unknowingly spending these tiny treasures on coffee, gum, or parking meters? Collectors began scouring their jars, boxes, and pocket change with a new sense of urgency. The mint mark. On certain 2016 pennies, the D or P mint mark shows irregularities, faint doubling, misplacement, or even subtle blurs that only reveal themselves under magnification. These errors are so scarce that most will never see one in a lifetime. Yet, for those who do, the payoff is staggering. Imagine it. Dealers are rushing to secure any high-grade 2016 penny they can find, terrified they might overlook the next million-dollar specimen. Collectors describe the thrill as electric, the feeling that at any moment, the next coin you flip over could change your life forever. But here's where it gets even stranger. Not all of these valuable 2016 pennies are error coins. Some are prized because of their perfect condition. Mint state 70. Flawless. Untouched. Coins like this are like frozen time capsules, as though the moment they left the mint, they were sealed away, waiting for discovery. And when one surfaces, collectors battle furiously to claim it. One story tells of a man in California who found his 2016 penny sealed in a roll of coins. He almost spent the roll at a vending machine. Instead, he cracked it open, and there it was, a penny that would later appraise for over $1 million. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions. and most people miss it that if you run your fingers across the coin and notice unusual texture around Lincoln's eye, if you tilt it under the light and see doubling in the word liberty, or if the mint mark seems slightly misplaced, you may be holding a once-in-a-lifetime fortune. Collectors were shocked when the grading reports confirmed it. A handful of 2016 pennies were certified at values no one believed possible. The headline spread, and suddenly, this modern cent became the most hunted coin in America. Think about that coffee can in your garage filled with loose change. The jar on your nightstand. The pennies hiding in your car's cup holder. Any one of those could hold the 2016 penny worth a staggering $1.6 million. And you'd never know, unless you looked closely. This isn't just about money. It's about history. It's about destiny. It's about ordinary people stumbling upon extraordinary miracles. Every collector knows the dream, the idea that one day, out of nowhere, your life could change because of a coin you thought was worthless, and here's the real lesson. To identify this coin, you need to look carefully at three things. First, the mint mark. Check the D or P for doubling, distortion, or misplacement. Second, the date. Many of the most valuable 2016 pennies show doubling on the number 6, a subtle shadow effect that sets them apart. And third, the overall condition. Even without an error, an untouched mint state 70 example can fetch staggering sums. Don't make the mistake of dismissing modern coins. Dealers used to laugh at the idea that a penny minted just a few years ago could be worth millions. They aren't laughing anymore. So the next time you get a handful of change, pause for just a second. Tilt that penny in the light. Look for the doubling, the odd mint mark, the flawless strike. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through history without anyone noticing. A coin so ordinary, so common, that millions of people have tossed it aside, yet one discovery shook the collecting world to its core. A 1988 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, a single cent, sold for an amount so unbelievable it left collectors speechless. Not $1,000. Not even $100,000. But worth up to $1.7 million. And the truth is, one just like it could still be hiding in your pocket change. The story begins in the late 1980s, a time when pennies were churned out by the billions. Most were simple copper-plated zinc coins, nothing more than spare change. But deep within the presses of the Philadelphia Mint, something unusual happened. A detail so tiny, so easy to miss, slipped past the eyes of inspectors. And this mistake, invisible to most, transformed an ordinary penny into $1 million treasure. At first glance, the 1988 penny looks like every other coin. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, the memorial reverse, the year stamped proudly beneath his chin. But here's where it gets shocking: some of these pennies carry a hidden design feature. A microscopic difference in the lettering, a secret trace left by an older die, one that should never have been used. And this detail changed everything. Dealers were stunned the first time it appeared at auction. Collectors gasped when the hammer came down. A penny that should have been worth a cent, suddenly fetching life-changing money. But what made this coin so special? What secret could possibly make a 1988 no-mint mark penny worth more than $1 million? The answer lies in a mistake so rare, even seasoned numismatists couldn't believe it. A transitional die error, a mix-up where dies from different years collided with new coinage. Some 1988 pennies were struck with a reverse design that belonged to the 1989 issue. At first, nobody noticed. Billions of coins passed through vending machines, lunch counters, and piggy banks. But then, one sharp-eyed collector spotted it. The AM, in America on the reverse, was different. The spacing, the shape, the design, not what a 1988 should have. That tiny detail revealed the truth: this wasn't just a penny. This was history misprinted in metal. And once word spread, the coin world went into a frenzy. But what happened next stunned everyone. One of these error coins surfaced at a major auction house. Experts gathered, examining every curve, every letter, every faint mark. The bidding began modestly, cautious voices testing the waters. Then it climbed higher, and higher, until the room fell silent at the final price. Over $1 million. A single cent, now a life-changing fortune. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. The hunt for 1988 pennies became an obsession. Suddenly, people were pulling out jars of change, scouring rolls from the bank, staring at every penny under magnification. Because if one ordinary coin could be worth that much, who's to say the next discovery wasn't still out there? And here's the part that makes this story truly chilling. Experts believe more of these error pennies are still in circulation. Lost in old drawers, stuck in coin jars, buried in forgotten piggy banks. That means you, yes, you, might unknowingly have one sitting right under your nose, but most people miss it. The average eye glances at a penny and sees nothing. Just change. Just copper. But trained collectors know the difference. They know where to look. They know the signs. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This tiny detail is why the coin is worth millions, and most people never notice. Think about it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Imagine dropping a penny into a vending machine, never realizing you just spent enough to buy a mansion. It's enough to make your heart race, but before you rush to check your change, let's slow down. You need to know exactly what to look for. Because if you miss this detail, you might let fortune slip away. On the reverse of the 1988 penny, look closely at the letters in America. Specifically, the spacing of the A and M. In the rare transitional error, they are spaced much farther apart, a telltale sign of the 1989 reverse die. This is the key. This is the difference that separates a penny worth a cent from a penny worth over $1 million, but here's the danger. Many people mistake normal wear, scratches, or even counterfeit copies for the real thing. Dealers warn collectors to be cautious. The true error has very specific markers, the wide AM reverse, along with sharper design details not present on standard 1988 coins. Only coins authenticated by trusted grading services have sold for staggering sums, and yet, the possibility is real. Right now, a forgotten jar of pennies in someone's attic could hold the next $1 million discovery. Right now, a cashier could hand you a fortune disguised as pocket change. Collectors call it the thrill of the hunt, the endless chase for the coin that changes everything. Stories keep surfacing of unbelievable finds, a child's coin jar, a flea market table, a dusty old collection passed down through family. Time and again, ordinary people stumble onto extraordinary treasures. The 1988 no-mint mark penny is one of those miracles. Rare, mysterious, and capable of turning a single cent into a seven-figure payday. One of them could carry the secret of a lifetime. One of them could hold the power to rewrite your story, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.